Hello, welcome to another episode of Critical Weight Theory. And today we're going to be looking at Bob Seger and the Silver Bullet Band. It's partly because the July 4th holiday is coming up, and I wanted to do an episode that was sort of non sarcastically patriotic or something like that, celebrating a musical artist that does reflect, or at least seemingly reflect, some of the classic American values, or whatever you want to call them. And this is indeed a musical artist and group that shaped American rock with grit, soul, and truth, or something like it at least. You know, a lot of people out there, they like Bob Seger and the Silver Bullet Band, and I'm sure there are some haters, but this episode just isn't for those people. You know, they're a band that has basically no hype, no frills, and it's, one of the underrated legends in rock music. Well, maybe it's not underrated, I don't know. But it seems like people are kind of gradually forgetting about him a little bit more. You know, it's one of those kind of things where sure he's a known and respected musical artist. A lot of people have heard Turn the Page over the years. But at the same time, he's kind of slipping away from the public awareness as a lot of classic rock has done. And this time we're going to be looking back at why he was famous in the first place and why people like this band. So Bob Seger was born on May 6th, 1945 in Detroit, Michigan. So yes, he is another Michigan musician. And, I happen to be from Michigan, so I guess you could say I feel a little bit of pride over that. Not really, but a little bit, I guess. And, it's a city that bleeds engine grease, soul music, and hard earned dreams, I guess you could say. Detroit. I've talked about them recently in another episode, and it's sort of coincidentally that I'm talking about it again because I kind of forgot that Bob Seger was a Michigander. And that's exactly what you hear in Seger's voice. It's a raspy, lived in sound that tells stories of working class life, lost love, freedom, aging, and trying to hold on to what matters. You know, those kinds of themes that are really genuine sounding in not just music, but the artistic world overall. He's often compared to Springsteen, which is fair, but I think Bob Seger's got Midwest grit and less flash. He's a little bit more, I don't know, genuine. He seems less like a superstar than Springsteen. Don't get me wrong, I'm not a Springsteen basher over here, but at the same time, it's almost like he's a little bit more stripped down than Springsteen in a way. So let's talk about the Silver Bullet Band, formed in 1974. This wasn't just a backup group, it was a tight, no BS machine built for the road and the studio. They're one of those bands that plays for the song. It's not particularly flashy, but at the same time, it gets the jobs. I said jobs plural. Uh, it gets the job or the jobs done. And the core members over the years included Drew Abbott on guitar, Chris Campbell on bass, Craig Frost on keys, and David Teagarden on drums, and the late great Alto Reed on sax, whose sound is considered instantly recognizable, especially if you're, familiar with the sound of the band. And together they didn't really chase trends that much. They played tight, raw, and real music. They weren't trying to sound like anything other than themselves. And they were they were solid live. In fact, the live album Silver Bullet from 1976 was actually what gave them a nationwide profile. It was recorded in Detroit. It was loud, sweaty, electric, and again, it's the record that made people nationwide take notice of them. There wasn't studio polish, just raw firepower. And in the same year, he released Night Moves, and the album is considered a masterpiece. And Rolling Stone at the time said that Night Moves offers rock and roll in the classic mold, bold, aggressive, and grandiloquent. Well, I'm not sure how aggressive it really is, but the point is that Rolling Stone was praising this album, and certainly a lot of people saw a great deal of value in that album. And of course, the title track is pretty famous. It's a coming of age anthem, soaked in nostalgia, pure Glory Days syndrome. And I'm sure it would still land for a lot of new listeners. That Night Moves, it's one of those songs that just has that feel. The instrumental parts give you that sense of nostalgia, and the lyrics and the vocals, of course, do as well. And then, The Stranger in Town was released in 78. Tracks like Still the Same, which is all about people who never change, I think, if I remember correctly. You had Old Time Rock and Roll, a jukebox anthem that turned into pop culture, Immortality After Risky Business. You've seen the scene, even if you haven't seen the movie. Tom Cruise, Socks, Slide, Done, Legacy. You know, it's one of those. That movie actually helped create. Well, it pretty much did create Tom Cruise's superstardom too. It made him a star, and this song, "Old Time Rock and Roll," is part of that. That rise into superstardom. Oddly enough, and "Old Time Rock and Roll" is one of those songs that, yeah, it's you're just gonna have to listen to it and really get the feel of what it's all about. And in 1980, Against the Wind came out. It was introspective, reflective, not really rowdy, and it hit number one. It apparently won 2 Grammys, and the title track still makes you think about where you've been and where you're going. And Like a Rock, it it became a Chevy commercial. Just the commercial potential was there. But listen close, it's not about trucks. It's not like a corny country song exactly. It's about holding yourself up when the years start pushing down. And Turn the Page is about life on the road with its loneliness and the weight of just being away from people and putting up with unique hardships. And I would assume some temptations. If you're an actual rock star, you've got to be able to learn to say no to certain things that are there in front of you. At least traditionally, that's what rock stars are known to encounter on the road. It, I wouldn't know because I'm not a rock star. I'll just put it that way. And it's a classic Seger album. Wait, what was I talking about? I don't even remember. I just started talking about an album here, but anyway, all of his albums are classic. I'll just put it that way. So Bob Seger sold over 75 million records. So again, he's not unknown, but it seems like he's less talked about these days. He got inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 2004, which incredibly was 21 years ago already. He never chased the spotlight. He let the songs do the talking. Basically, no gimmicks, no drama, just honesty. And his final tour wrapped in 2019, decades of sold out shows, and a career with really no shortcuts, as far as I'm aware. So, Bob Seger does matter. His music tells stories, the ones that aren't flashy or Instagram worthy, stories of growing up, growing old, getting by, trying to be good, to be loved, and to live a life that means something. It's like a quote that I have been banding about these days from East of Eden by Steinbeck. And here's the quote right here: "When a man comes to die, if he dies unloved, his life must be a failure. We should remember our dying and try to. Or I'm mangling it. We should remember our dying and try so to live that our death brings no pleasure to the world." So Bob Seger lived like he remembered, and the world's better for it, I guess you could say. But I'm talking about him as if he's dead. But anyway, yeah, you might want to listen to Night Moves and learn it on the piano or something like that, because it's a keeper of a song. And yeah, I guess that's it for this episode. I probably botched it, but if Bob Seger's music meant something to you, I guess you could share this episode and keep that fire burning. Or because I kind of botched my talking points here, you could still like it anyway, and maybe keep that fire burning of liking something despite the person not doing the best job of, because isn't that the American way? You know, you don't only reward people for grand accomplishments, you also reward the downtrodden and the failures. You elevate them too. What's that saying? A rising tide lifts all boats. Yeah, that's part of the American dream too. So I guess treat me like I was a success even though I'm a failure. Show this humble buffoon a little bit of love and appreciation. So till next time, keep the engine running and crank some Bob Seger because he's part of the American spirit or whatever you want to call it. Anyway, have a good one.